The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Education, leading the world of digital and video learning. Discovery Education. Connect to a world of learning.
In addition to the broad expanse of the Gulf Coast, the southwestern region of the United States consists of an enormous inland area of arid desert lands, rugged mountains, vast plains, and deep canyons. Relics of our country's history are plentiful in the Southwest, from the imposing ruins of thousand-year-old Native American pueblos to 17th century Spanish missions. The 4 states of the southwestern region are Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Much of the southern part of Arizona lies in a geographical area known as the Sonoran Desert, that also extends into Mexico and California. The Sonoran Desert is one of the largest deserts in North America. It has a harsh environment, yet it's home to many life forms. In fact, it hosts a greater diversity of plants and animals than any other desert in the world. The Sonoran Desert is a perfect place for cactus plants, because its climate is dry and sunny almost all year. It's extremely hot here from May to October, with temperatures reaching 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The saguaro cactus is one of the unique species found in the Sonoran Desert. These gigantic desert plants grow to be more than 50 feet in height and live for some 200 years. This reptile, called a Gila monster, is another unusual inhabitant of the southwestern deserts. It grows up to 2 feet in length and is one of the world's 2 most venomous lizards. Its bite kills its prey, such as birds or frogs, but it is rarely fatal to humans. Arizona's 2 biggest cities, Phoenix and Tucson, are located in the Sonoran Desert. Tucson, the southernmost of Arizona's large cities, lies only about 65 miles from our nation's border with Mexico. In southern Arizona, walls and fences have been erected all along the international boundary line. The U.S. Border Patrol closely monitors this area to prevent illegal immigration into the United States. Not far from the Mexican border in Arizona are a number of giant open-pit copper mines, like this one. More than 700,000 tons of copper ore are mined in the state each year, accounting for 65% of the annual U.S. output of this mineral. Southern Arizona is also home to the Tohono O'odham Nation, which is the second largest Native American reservation in the U.S. in terms of land area. This tribe's territory encompasses nearly 3 million acres, which makes it roughly the size of the state of Connecticut. However, just 24,000 people inhabit their vast tribal lands. The Catholic mission of San Javier del Bac is the focal point of many of the tribe's activities. It was founded in the 18th century by a Spanish missionary named Father Eusebio Kino. Most of the Tohono O'odham people adopted the Catholic faith, but also carry on their traditional way of life, handing down beliefs and the O'odham language from generation to generation. Most of the southwestern region is located in what is often referred to as the Sun Belt. This is a broad strip of land that stretches across the southern part of the country, roughly from the Carolinas in the east to central California in the west. People living in the Sun Belt enjoy abundant sunshine and warmth most of the year. Much of the nation's population growth is occurring in the Sun Belt, and many new businesses and factories are opening here as well. Each fall, a large number of retired people travel to the Sun Belt from colder parts of the country, live in their recreational vehicles all winter, and head back north in the springtime. Some of these seasonal visitors eventually move into year-round retirement communities like this one, helping to make southern Arizona one of the fastest-growing areas in the nation. Unfortunately, the small amount of precipitation that falls in this desert environment does not provide enough water to supply its rapidly growing population. Currently, some 40% of Arizona's water needs are supplied not by local rainfall, but by the Colorado River, which runs about 688 miles within the state's boundaries. This river begins high in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, where it is fed by the melting snow. When the Colorado River reaches Arizona, Nevada, and California, its water is diverted into numerous aqueducts like these, where it flows long distances to cities and agricultural areas. In addition to Colorado River water, Tucson and other Arizona cities also rely on water pumped from wells. But the state's groundwater supply is limited and is being consumed faster than it can be replaced. People living in desert areas like Tucson are able to save a lot of water by replacing their lawns with a layer of gravel and growing drought-tolerant plants like these. By irrigating with Colorado River water, Arizona farmers have turned barren desert into extremely productive farmland, where lettuce and citrus are grown year-round. Cotton is the state's most valuable crop, and Arizona farmers grow more than 200,000 tons of it per year. But Texas is the nation's leading cotton-producing state. The state is also a major producer of rice. In fact, Texas farmers annually grow about 1 million tons of each of these crops. And Texas is by far the largest beef-producing state. Roughly 15% of all the beef cattle in the U.S., or around 14 million head, are raised on ranches in Texas. Large-scale cattle ranching is fairly common throughout the entire Southwestern region, including New Mexico, the state that leads the nation in the production of chili peppers. In Oklahoma, wheat is the most valuable agricultural product. Combines like this one can harvest enough of this grain in 1 minute to produce about 500 loaves of bread. Once the wheat has been harvested, farmers pasture their cattle on the same fields. So the farmland does double duty by producing both grain and beef. The Colorado Plateau is a geographical area that makes up the northern part of Arizona, the northwestern portion of New Mexico, and parts of Utah and Colorado as well. It encompasses some 130,000 square miles of arid, flat-topped mesas, cliffs, and canyons. Because the plateau is situated at a higher elevation than the lands of the Sonoran Desert, the temperatures are considerably cooler here. Northern Arizona's Grand Canyon is undoubtedly the most well-known feature of the Colorado Plateau. America's biggest canyon was carved through erosion over countless centuries by the waters of the Colorado River. As you descend into this canyon, the layers of rock represent progressively more ancient geological eras. The northern and central part of the Colorado Plateau is home to the Navajo Nation, the largest Native American reservation in the United States. Their starkly beautiful tribal lands cover around 27,000 square miles in Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, and completely encircle the lands of the Hopi tribe. Like other sovereign Native American nations, the Navajo operate under their own elected government. Most Navajo people strongly adhere to their traditional ways and converse in their ancient language. A large number of Navajo work for the tribal government. Many others farm or raise sheep, whose wool is woven into the rugs and blankets that are a well-known aspect of Navajo culture. Not far from the boundaries of the Navajo Nation in northwestern New Mexico, Chaco Culture National Historical Park preserves one of America's most significant and fascinating historic areas. Chaco Canyon was a major center of the ancestral Puebloan culture between CE 850 and 1250. It was a hub of ceremony, trade, and administration for the area. Chaco Canyon is remarkable for its distinctive architecture, whose monumental public and ceremonial buildings display skillful planning and design, as well as a lot of hard physical work. A short distance to the north of Chaco Canyon, at the Aztec Ruins National Monument, visitors can tour another group of Native American buildings, most of which are about 900 years old. This is a fully restored kiva. Kivas are unique structures found in the ruins of most of the ancient villages in this area. They are circular chambers built partially or entirely underground. Kivas were used by the men of the village for religious ceremonies and for tribal meetings. North America's longest mountain range, the Rocky Mountains, extends from New Mexico to Alaska. One of the continent's longest rivers, the Rio Grande, begins in Colorado's Rocky Mountains and flows through New Mexico to Texas. The river forms the border between Texas and Mexico and empties into the Gulf. In northern New Mexico, the lands along the Rio Grande and those adjacent to the Rockies are home to a diverse group of Native Americans known as the Pueblo people. This is New Mexico's Laguna Pueblo, with the snow-capped Rockies rising in the background. Many Pueblo communities in the Southwest are several centuries old. This historic photograph shows the Pueblo of Acoma, New Mexico as it looked 100 years ago. People have lived in Acoma continually for a longer period of time than any other town in the United States. Most of the 35,000 modern-day inhabitants of Arizona and New Mexico's traditional villages are the descendants of the ancestral Puebloan people who lived at Chaco Canyon and similar locations through the late 1100s. The Indian Pueblo villages of the upper Rio Grande Valley were the sites of the first Spanish colonial settlements in the southwestern region. In fact, the Spanish founded Santa Fe, today's state capital of New Mexico, in the year 1610. This was just 3 years after English colonists on the East Coast established the settlement at Jamestown, Virginia. The Pueblo people of the Rio Grande Valley and the later Spanish colonists constructed their buildings from a material called adobe. Adobe bricks are made by hand from a mixture of mud and straw and are hardened by baking in the sun. Old adobe buildings, such as this church in the village of Chimayo, New Mexico, are a familiar sight across the Southwest. This historic church is filled with richly colored religious art that was created nearly 2 centuries ago. Some people travel great distances to Chimayo to obtain sand from the church floor that is believed to possess curative powers. Southern New Mexico's White Sands Missile Range, seen here, was the site of an event that radically changed the course of history. That was the detonation of the first atomic bomb, which occurred during World War II on July 16, 1945.
Army cameras 6 miles away recorded the historic moment in the black of night.
A few weeks after the test blast, U.S. warplanes dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. The use of these weapons of mass destruction quickly ended World War II, but the loss of life was enormous. In the 1820s and 1830s, when New Mexico was still part of Old Mexico, a crucial wagon route called the Santa Fe Trail linked Santa Fe to the town of Independence, Missouri in the United States. The freight wagons traveling the Santa Fe Trail crossed the Great Plains, another important geographical area of the Southwestern region. In New Mexico, this flat, almost treeless grassland stretches from the foothills of the Rocky Mountains into Oklahoma and Texas. In the summertime, the Great Plains areas of these states are frequently subjected to powerful thunderstorms and occasionally to tornadoes that develop from them. Tornadoes are violently destructive windstorms in the form of rapidly spinning funnel-shaped clouds that extend toward and often reach the ground. From 1935 through 1938, a severe drought afflicted the western Great Plains. This drought, coupled with high winds and poor farming practices, caused the topsoil of the plowed fields to turn to dust and blow away. The worst wind erosion affected a circular area of the Great Plains where the states of New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas meet. This area of damaged land came to be called the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl was not only a great national tragedy, it was also one of the worst environmental disasters in American history. Tens of thousands of people were forced to abandon their farms, load up their families and a few possessions, and head off to look for work in other parts of the nation.